Hello and welcome to Console Shock, episode 61, retro and modern game chat with me, Trev, and...
Hi, Stu.
Yeah, you said hi, Stu again like you did last time. Sounds like you're saying hi to yourself. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Should we do it again, or should we just carry on? Let's go for it, yeah.
I think it's hilarious. You're right,
Lon? Yeah, good. I just wanted to make an announcement first. Go for it. I want to start a Patreon. I want to open a video game museum.
I know what you're referring to. I know what you're referring to here.
Yeah, well, let's not get into the
Bomb himself, Mr. Hancock.
Yeah, so I'm going to start off a museum.
He's got one in his basement.
Is it in his basement?
It's just he's already got one, right? He just needs to I don't even know what is it he was actually trying to do. He's trying to set up
he wants to, yeah, like a video game museum which will sort of hold all of his games and things like that, so people can go there and, you know, I guess I'll paraphrase. I don't really know, to be honest, but
it's an idea, I think, in principle. But
yeah. I think, to be honest with you, actually, I think it's a good idea.
About it? What was the flare up? I know there's been a big thing.
I think the flare up was I'm not good with YouTube dramas, but the flare up was he wanted to do it, and obviously he was asking for money to help set it up, and that always sort of outrageous. It always sort of riles people up on the internet. Don't ask me for money. It's okay to get money from banks, but you know. Anyway, so he asked people for money.
Yeah. And
then someone did a video saying, "Oh, no, that's terrible. You're asking people for money." So then he copyright striked that person for using an image of him in the video where they said, you know, don't give him money for his museum. So he got in people got a little bit annoyed with him for, you know, doing a copyright strike, because
someone said you shouldn't be asking for money, that's wrong, and then he copyright stroked them. Is that the right one?
Yes. So I think he copyright striked.
He stroked them.
Copyright
stroke upon thee.
A few people, and
they were
so then, good friend of the show, future guest as well, Review Tech USA, he came out and said... He came out, you know, he did a Philip Schofield, and breaking news, you know when this gets released now, how old it is.
A good Philip Schofield reference always really resonates with our American listeners, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, Philip Schofield, yeah.
I love that dude. Anyway, yeah, Review Tech
USA sort of called him out and said, you know, you shouldn't, if basically you shouldn't content strike people who disagree with you. Just if someone disagrees with you, just say, you know, I disagree with you. Don't interact with it or listen to the criticism. Maybe take it on board. So then John Hancock came out and said, "Oh, actually, I've taken on board what you said. You know, I'm sorry for this, and I think they've all made up now."
But I think I saw there's still people like to say, "Oh, he doesn't apologise. He's just still being a dick about it." So basically, yeah, major dramas going
Well,
on.
I think he still wants to open the museum, and in my opinion, if someone wants to open up a video game museum, I think that's a good thing. If they want to get money from people who are generally interested in having a museum about computer games, I think that's generally a good thing. And
well, me, I hate video games, but I think it's a good idea for someone to make money, from YouTube-based activities around them, because if they can do it, that means it opens the door for everybody else. But the trouble is, go on, sorry.
Well, it seemed to be like 3 or 4 years ago when people opened up Patreons and sponsorship and said, "Oh, I'm doing this," and then had put adverts on their videos. They were, they were next to, dictators. They were the worst people on earth. But now it seems to be a lot more. Oh yeah, no, that's people what they do. People have Patreons. People mention their Patreons every now and again in episodes, and they get a little bit of money through. And I think it's generally, actually, it's just almost like what people do. So I was a little bit surprised about the backlash, and probably I haven't watched all the videos that led up to it, and probably what got people angry about it. But if people, like, let's say people did a video sort of calling us out for maybe talking about blast processing or something like that.
Oh yes,
talking about blast processing. And maybe their interpretation of blast processing was slightly different from our interpretation of blast processing.
I think we're more likely to get criticised just being sort of all around kind of a bit crap. But I think like with stuff like like Rich Review Tech USA again, kind of directly sort of, I think, reference this in the video that I watched about. I didn't know exactly what was going on. That's why I asked you. But what I thought of it, a lot of people feel like being on YouTube and although it's not really directly about trying to get money for a museum, but getting money from YouTube, people don't deem that worthy of a full-time job. So they kind of feel like, oh, you should just have it as a hobby. Just have it as a hobby. No one should ever take it seriously and try and get money from it, because people should have real jobs, like where you put on a suit and go to an office and type on a computer for 8 hours. You should be sat on your ass. The trouble with Rick, I don't really watch a lot of his stuff because he just seems to be focusing more on 2-hour-long streams where he just answers questions, and I'm just like, I don't want to watch you for 2 frigging hours. Having 14-year-olds send like cucumber memes at you. I love the guy. I love his shorthand news update videos.
That in all honesty, that's all I watch of him.
I ignore all of his I'm doing a 3-hour stream. Ask me questions. But which is wrong, because people should be able to make a living off YouTube. It's just
100%.
Because like I said, that if people like him could do it, that kind of opens it up for sort of numpties like me and you. With we're not really lending ourselves to making money when we just have a stupid little audio only. It's funny because people tell me, "Oh, no, you shouldn't be doing like an audio only thing on YouTube. No one listens to that." And there's things like, I keep saying it before about Something to Wrestle and all the various kind of wrestling. The chap called Conrad Thompson. All of his shit on YouTube is just him talking. No edit, hardly any editing.
Yeah.
Even the adverts, he just talks. He does the adverts. He just talks them, and maybe slaps a bit of background music on in the background. It's barely more profesh than our sort of shit. So I think there's a market for it. They're right in the sense that it's not the number one platform for that. But it should be on everything really to cover all the bases.
I mean, if you look at the viewers we get on YouTube compared to the downloads, it's almost sort of night and day, really. And
Sonic R, every bastard wants to watch that.
Well, yeah, exactly. that was a cracking episode. Yeah. But what my point is. Or what is my point? That actually, I think for you and me, we enjoy the process of doing the podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think let's say we had every episode we had 100,000 listeners. I don't know if that's ever possible. We'll get anywhere near that. and
shit, but yeah,
and I'll be generally like, oh wow, 100,000, and then we generally got an income from that, so we could actually focus every day of the week to producing Console Shock material for everyone. And for me, that's something that, actually, I'd like to do that. We could go and buy cameras, go and buy more microphones. We could, we always joke about, we're never going to go to, or we don't want to, or we do want to, but we just never fit into our lifestyle of going to, like, Play Expo or going to E3 or something, and then actually going actually to America to meet lots of people, or go to Europe and go and actually, we earn so much advertising money that we can actually take the podcast to the next level. So it's actually
was a ball ache. So going to bloody some kind of German Amiga convention is going to be a bit of a stretch, isn't it?
Well,
but, hey, everybody get on the Patreon, pay us to go to all this stuff, and we'll be well up for it then.
Exactly. We haven't got a Patreon, but
stop talking about football. You always bring up football, like every single one, and I say retro video game nerds hate that shit. They don't want to know about, like, especially not Charlton Athletic. I don't want to talk about Charlton.
Well, hold on. We never. So, we do talk about football games a lot.
We need to talk about retro gaming nerd stuff, which is hidden gems, Super Nintendo RPGs, and that, stuff like that, and obscure Neo Geo stuff, not fucking mainstream. FIFA. I played FIFA 19 last week. It was good. To be fair, actually, probably some of the biggest like YouTube channels is just people playing like Ultimate Team and all that kind of gubbins. So
exactly.
We're probably completely barking up the right tree, really. So anyway, enough about us talking about weird podcast life stuff.
Yeah,
we have a bloody subject right now.
I know. You probably read it in the title.
Probably, yeah. We tend to sort of drop the old subject of the show in the title, don't we? So, as you would have seen, if you read the title, we're talking... This is a weird one, actually, isn't it? Because I think there is a debate about what is retro, although we do talk about modern chisel as well. I would say a quick sort of rule for me is... it's 2 generations removed from what you're like currently in. I consider to be sort of retro. That's my quick sort of rule. Oh, there's plenty of people like God say that on like any kind of a retro gaming Facebook or Twitter thing, and have a million people like, shut up, you're an idiot, you disgust me. Anything the cut-off point is the year 2000. Anything after that is super modern and ridiculous. The only retro stuff is before that. Basically, I guess that's like PS1 or something. Or Dreamcast is the most recent thing. But I don't think so, because obviously that's only going to be retro to sort of old farts like us, who are going to be like, grew up with that. It's like people now who, in 10 years' time, 360 is going to be like super like retro to sort of people that are currently now, I don't know, like sort of 15 or something. And they're going to be like, oh, I remember that really, really. Remember the awful graphics on like Last of Us back in the day. They'll be having these little whimsical little chats about games that to us now really look amazing. So 2 consoles that basically are part of what is now the last generation. We're going to chat about them, aren't we? And they're handhelds, and it's the PS Vita. And
you nearly said PSP.
The triple DS, the DS triple, but also 2DS, I guess. Yeah, the
3DS.
Or the PS Vita. It's got a few other names, isn't it? It's called the Super PSP, the PSP 2, and Well, no, not at all. It's just called the Vita. It's got any other name. Vita, it was called the NGP, wasn't it? Before it got, I remember when it was kind of.
Was it? I didn't know that.
It was called the NGP. Yeah, it was called the next generation portable.
Oh,
the next gen portable. Yeah, and then it just got the Vita. It was a very strange name, I have to say. When it was announced, I was like, "What the frick is that?"
Do you know what? It seems quite odd that they called it Vita.
Is it life or something? It means life in another language.
It means life. It should really, if they, I can guarantee they would have sold more if they called it the PSP 2.
Maybe.
Because that's what PlayStation do. PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2.
It's
PSP
weird, isn't it? You think
1,
they should change
PSP
the name?
2.
You think they should drop the whole play? The brand's too strong, isn't it, to possibly have another name?
Yeah. So then this whole, like, imagine thinking, you know, like the PlayStation 5, we're going to call it the PlayStation Victory.
Not even PlayStation, just like the Puma 3000 or something, you know.
Yeah, it'll just be no. It's PlayStation. It has a number on it. You know, that works perfectly for people to know. This is the one that everyone's talking about. Not that one with an unusual Latin name.
It's very rare that you get. Like, I remember the Sega Saturn that is based. That is the code name that it had, and they just kept it because they were like, "Yeah, it sounds kind of cool." Whereas the Xbox was like, "Oh, we'll give it. What name should we have while we're developing it? Let's just call it it's DirectX. It's in a box. Let's call it the Xbox." But we'll definitely come up with something better. That is a really shit name, and they just couldn't come up with anything.
It's so almost like a good name because everyone goes, "Oh yeah, no, it's the Xbox," and they've always had sort of a silly name after it, you know, 360 kind of worked. And then obviously the Xbox One. Now they're talking about the Xbox Series X and
stupid, isn't it? Absolutely stupid. Just call it 2, 3. No one was going to get annoyed with that, you know. Xbox One is kind of cool name. I thought 360 was an awful name. I thought, what does that even mean? It's just round. You know what I mean? Well, it's like, I know they said, oh yeah, because it's super like connected to like music and video and games, which it wasn't really. All that stuff came in like years after the fact. If anything, the PS3 was kind of more for that in a weird way, like with the Blu-ray sort of player and all that.
Yeah, that's
true.
Stuff.
But yeah, it's you know what? I remember when I don't know where I remember first reading it, like it would have been in a game magazine in the early 90s, but when I first heard that there was this thing called a PlayStation that Sony were making, I thought that sounded horrible. So like a kid's, like a baby's like playpen or something.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I mean, the PlayStation, I think personally is a great name. It says exactly what it is. It's, you know, you play video games on it, you know, a station play. Just makes sense.
So, in terms of obviously, you know, 3DS is it's actually quite a good name. It kind of says exactly what it says on the tin. Yeah. So, what did you think when? I mean, did you have a DS?
I had a DS, and I liked the DS. That was a good machine, and I was always with the DS. I love sort of sitting there and just playing. I think it's like 42 all card game classics and
all those legendary DS games. 61 Fun Pack, that dodgy pirate one off eBay.
Do you know what? No, in all honesty, I think that's why I enjoyed playing on there the most. It was
those for me, games did work on that though, because of the two screens and the touch screen. Those kind of, you know, solitaire and like things like that work really well.
Yeah. So when I always played things like that, and of course the Mario games, Mario Kart. I had a few RPGs on there, which were always sort of quite good. And I actually got out of the drawer the other night. I've got Metal Slug 7 on me, and it's kind of like it's not quite the original sort of 2D style of graphics. It's more sort of I've got to sort of play it again to really sort of try and understand how they did the graphics, but it's
kind of kept that Neo Geo sort of gritty sort of look, didn't they? I think.
Yeah, and I mean things like that, and it had lots of good sort of games that you'd like. What's the game called? Alien Infestation. That's what I'm trying to say. And that was a sort of a cracking game, and you just had loads of good games on there, but. I mean, if we're going to talk about the DS, I suppose it was also. I think, in all honesty, I preferred the PSP.
Yeah, it was weird because I remember the first time they were announced kind of around the same time, and for all the money in the world, I thought the PSP would utterly destroy the DS.
Yeah.
I just didn't. It baffled me why people would buy a Nintendo DS. Even when I remember, I was at uni. I think it was then probably my first year of uni. It was 2004, wasn't it, when the original DS came out? And I remember like a friend of mine who was a member of like whatever Nintendo club was going on then, like Nintendo VIP club or something. He got to get it a month early. They sort of released it a month early to people that were members of the club in Europe, and he brought it in. And I thought, oh, it's kind of okay. I remember it had Picto Chat on it. It was kind of fun. But nothing on there really made me want to think, yeah, I'm definitely going to get this. This is like amazing. And then I've talked about it before. We've talked about the PSP, but when I first played a PSP, that blew my tits off. Like playing Wipeout on that, the screen seemed absolutely ginormous, like it filled your face. It was that. Obviously, now we can look at it and probably laugh at it, but then it was, huge.
I mean, for me. I think I've said this story before, but I remember going to a computer fair. I used to love going to computer fairs, off Oxford, Tottenham Court Road. You go there and you could buy memory, and there were people modding this. So it was just a really good sort of place to go. You got cheap computer hardware, and there was one stand there, and they had on show was a PSP, probably I'm making up numbers now, 6 months before it came out in the UK. And again, it had Ridge Racer on, and it was just playing, and it just looked really, really good. And I was like, oh wow,
looked like a PS2 in like the palm of your hand.
I just thought that, wow, that is amazing. And then what's the word, to compare that to the DS when it came out, I was not very excited about it at all. It just looked like the N64 graphics. It's a sort of funny sort of kid shape. It came out with absolutely, I want to say, no really good games. Nothing to generally get like, oh, actually, I know there's a load of games that I really want to get. But the PSP, straight away as it came out, it had sort of good football games with it. What was that, World Tour Soccer? Maybe quite not an amazing game. The Ridge Racers, and it's
Tony Hawk, and like Need for Speed, and all the big PS2 games.
Exactly, it was the PS2 in your pocket, and the only thing that let it down was only having one analog stick,
basically in an awkward position,
and a slightly awkward position, but it was generally it was such a good looking machine. And
I mean, to this day, it's still in my sort of top 5 consoles ever, I think, the PSP. Especially because, unfortunately, it got hacked very early on. So within a matter of months, you could, of it coming out, you could, download ISOs of all the games and just play them. And I probably did that a lot. I didn't have a lot of physical games until recently, when I started actively trying to pick up original copies of stuff. Because they're dirt cheap now. It's a great time to collect. But the DS just didn't appeal to me. I kind of felt the 2-screen thing was like a gimmick, almost like a desperate attempt to try and just be different, and to not like they were just banging out another Game Boy. There was nothing on it really that appealed to me, but it sold like hell, and I was just like, who's buying this instead of a PSP? But it was to be fair, it was a hell of a lot cheaper. The games appealed to those kind of short burst kind of handheld games that people love on the advance.
I think that's what Nintendo did right, because I remember, at the time I had my video game shop, and people would want to buy the DS, the original DS, because it was sort of all of a sudden the PSP. What was it for me was like, actually, why it was amazing. But actually, for everyone else, was why, no, I don't want to play a PlayStation 2 type game on the go. That doesn't really interest me. What I want to play is something in short bursts. So it was when things like the Brain Training came out, and the Super Mario new Super Mario Brothers, and Mario Kart came out, and it was stuff that you could just sort of pick up, have a go on. And there are so many sort of games like that they almost sort of made the games sort of slightly differently to sort of everything else really.
I think it hit that sort of we sort of like, you know, grandparents and parents and playing those brain training games. It appealed to that, you know, sort of demographic that the PSP would never. The PSP was for, like, you know, I don't want to sort of say the DS wasn't this, but hardcore gamers, I think, you know, and PlayStation fans. Whereas with the DS, you probably would get Nintendo hardcore gamers and just casual people. Although I think, like, a lot of people say the PSP kind of failed, but it sold like over 80 million units. You know, so
I wouldn't say it. I didn't fail. It didn't fail.
I knew a ton of people that had them, you know, and also people that weren't huge gamers, like had PSPs. So it was inevitable that it would get a sequel. But funny enough, like when the 3DS was announced, I was impressed at the start, because I think when they announced it in 2010, and the big game that they were showcasing was actually Super Street Fighter 4, and seeing like the videos of that, it looked like awesome. It looked like nearly like the sort of 360 version, and that actually made me think, wow, this is actually kind of cool. So I actually pre-ordered it, you know, straight as soon as it became available, the 3DS, and I got it. I think I got it, did it through Amazon. Probably the first thing I pre-ordered off Amazon in terms of a console, and I got it like the day it came out through the door. I think that was that might have been that time when Nintendo got really pissed off with Amazon, because they sort of started mailing out the 3DSs like 2 or 3 days ahead of the launch date, and people got them like the day before or something.
Right.
I don't think I did. I think I got it the day it came out. And then it made me question why anybody would want to go to a store like anymore. Because I was walking past, I got it that morning, and I was going to work, so I took it with me to work, so I could keep on sort of trying it out. I remember walking past my local game, and there was a queue of people to get their 3DSs, and I was like, God, why are you bothering? They probably were there overnight as well. And I just got mine through the door before any of those guys. So it just kind of killed the whole idea of midnight launches for me. And I'm sure you could have done that anyway with like when the 360 came out, and it would place PS2 probably. And you know, when you could pre-order those, mail order them or whatever. But yeah, it was that actually. And I think I probably warmed to the DS over the years, you know, up to that point. I don't think I actually bought one until after the 3DS came out, but to be fair.
What, a DS?
A DS, yeah.
Oh, well.
Because the PSP completely, you know, took over any desire I had for a portable console. So I had no real urge to get anything else. It wasn't until I decided I wanted to collect for it. And also probably, you know, getting DS games because they worked on the 3DS. As well, so I could sort of visit those games that I never had. But yeah, I mean, did you see the announcements for the 3DS? Were you interested in it before it came out?
It was, but I always remember the thing that sort of really got me was I was almost sort of disappointed that I had 3D. I know you could turn it off, but it was. Sometimes I think what. And why I like the Vita and the PSP is like, why can't you just have buttons? And why do you have to have a microphone? Why do you have to have a camera on the back where you scan things? Why do you have to have this? Why do you have to have that? And 3D was I think I tried it in the shop and it was like, oh God, it gives me a bit of a headache and I can't quite focus on it properly. And so for me, that was actually a downside. And when they announced sort of 2DS, and to be honest, I've never had a 3DS or a 2DS. I've never owned one, and I've played them sort of plenty of times. But it's just been. I think I've gone down the route of the Vita, and that was always sort of the machine for me. And I was, when it came to 3DS, was do I want to play it? Oh, I don't know. I just couldn't get into it.
Actually, I got my my 3DS that morning it came out, and I had a couple of I had 2 or 3 games with it.
Yeah.
And I think it was like Pilot. I think I got Pilot Wings. I got Pro Evolution Soccer 3D and and Street Fighter.
Yeah.
And I think when I turned it on, I started using the 3D because I was actually skeptical of the 3D. I thought, is it really that good? I was actually blown away. I thought it was really cool because obviously, you know, we're still in the early days of 3D stuff of that nature. Avatar came out like the year before, or 2 years before. It was 2011, wasn't it, when the 3DS came out? Yeah, it really impressed me, and especially when you play something like Pilot Wings, where it actually changes the sort of feel of the game, really, because you're that's a game that really would make you a racing game or anything where you're looking into the screen at something. Like you know, you had Pro Evo where you could like do the sort of where you play as just in like almost like a third person perspective behind the player. But the trouble is, football games don't really play very well like that.
No.
So that it does look cool from that third person perspective, but you don't really want to play a football game from that perspective generally. So it doesn't, you know, it works, but then it doesn't work. But something like Pilot Wings was really awesome. And there was the funny little like AR cards that came with it. They were cool little games, being able to take 3D photos with it. I was genuinely impressed by it. And it had, you know, over the next couple of months, I picked up. It had a really good, like as you know, I really like the Ridge Racer series. It actually had a really good Ridge Racer on it. Ridge Racer 3D, which is probably the last actual decent Ridge Racer game, funnily enough, because there hasn't been really one since that's been good. To the Vita one, obviously, less said about that, the better. The following year, but that was a really good game. You didn't really get a Mario game until a few months later, when like New Super Mario Bros. 2 came out, and that was another really good game. I played that to death. And it was also like and Super Mario 3D Land. That was really good. Although, you know, I paid full whack. I think it was like 200 quid, wasn't it, when it came out? Which a lot of people said was a reason why it didn't sell as well as they thought it would initially. It kind of sold like crap, didn't it? And Nintendo kind of frantically dropped the price because they were kind of expecting a big DS level sort of explosion out, and everybody was just going to go crazy over it. And it didn't do that, and they quickly dropped the price. And then people like myself who bought it on day one were pissed off. So Nintendo sort of threw a bunch of like NES and Game Boy Advance games at you for free, which is all right. And I think you got Super Mario Land, new Super Mario 3D Land for free, which is kind of cool because that's like £40 game, I think, or a £30 game. So I got all that stuff, which helped with that. And later on, when the 3DS XL came out, I upgraded to that, and that was way better because the screen is a lot bigger, makes the 3D work a bit better, and it's kind of got the screen the same size as like basically a PSP, and it's kind of an upgraded PSP really. And a lot of games that are on the PSP kind of ended up getting sort of, you know, newer versions came out on like the 3DS, which didn't, and games that wouldn't necessarily have, you know, worked that great on the DS. Like there was like Need for Speed The Run came out on 3DS. I mentioned obviously there was a good Ridge Racer on 3DS. There was one on the DS, but it was shit. Also Mario Kart 7 came out, and that was awesome.
That was amazing.
One of the best sort of mainline kind of. It wasn't like a weird little spin-off portable version. It was kind of just a mainline Mario Kart game, which is I get another one where the 3D works really well. So yeah, I mean, also I think in terms of like portability, the 3DS is great, and this is also true of the DS because you could obviously close it into like a clamshell and then put it in your back pocket, and there isn't a big need for a huge case or screen protectors or anything like that, because that screen is only ever really, you know, exposed when you're playing with it really. Whereas a PSP, you might feel you need to put that in a sleeve or something if you're going to be putting it in your back pocket. So that's great as well. Then obviously, you know, when they dropped the price and then, you know, later models came out, one thing they're good at with their handhelds is multiple versions of them coming out. The 2DS, which I thought was the ugliest thing in the world, but I see little kids playing like with 2DS like all over the place, and the sales really took off, you know, when that sort of 2013-14 period. And obviously it went to completely, like, in terms of handhelds, dominate the handheld market over the Vita, which again, when I saw the specs for it, and that got announced, obviously it was about a year behind the 3DS, wasn't it? Like
It's
much
something
like the
like that,
PSP, yeah, it was. I mean, what did you think of the PS Vita when that got announced and the sort of
Well, I
specs
was
came out?
for me when that came out, I was like, oh wow, actually this is really good. I'm genuinely excited about it because
Yeah,
it built on everything that I liked about the PSP. It had uh, two thumbsticks, and a bigger screen. The games looked well, okay, nearly as good as the PS3 at the time. So and for me that was like, oh okay, right, actually yeah, I want to I want to go for this. So I remember I picked up the Uncharted game. That was really good for it.
Golden Abyss.
Yeah, Golden Abyss,
Yeah,
and yeah, it was all right. I enjoyed it. Obviously, actually playing it on the big screen was better, but then I actually got into quite a lot of sort of RPGs, and I completed Killzone Mercenaries on there. That was a good game. There was sort of things like, what's it called? I want to say Devil's Crush, Dragon's Crown on there. That was a really good game, and there was so many sort of great games, but it just didn't. I don't know. It was just something about it that it didn't engage with people, so it didn't get the type of games that I guess I was looking for, like the AAA games. And slowly, every game either to me was um, a Japanese, real Japanese RPG, love
visual
simulator.
novel, visual
Yeah,
novels, and quirky. Yeah,
exactly. And if you bought games on the online store, actually one of its, and the games still come out for it today on the online store. I think someone did a video the other day of 10 more games that are going to come out for the Vita.
yeah,
Probably
yeah.
about
That's right.
eight of those will, and two won't quite make it. And he was going, oh, okay, this other great big 2D retro style platformer. Oh, there'll be another 2D retro style platformer.
Another
So
visual novel.
yeah, so it was great if you want a 2D style retro style platformer.
The
And
appeal's the appeal is limited as hell, though, isn't it, for that kind of stuff? I mean,
yeah,
those sort of AAA, your typical PS3 games, they
mm,
they kind of died pretty quick, wasn't it? I feel like we got to 2013 having been out for about a year at that
mm,
point, and those releases already just completely dried up, didn't they?
mm, yeah,
Um, and we got an awful sort of FIFA updated version of FIFA where they didn't even change the menus; they just put the new kits and the new players in.
oh,
Everything was the same, and they wanted
yeah,
40 quid for it. And then I think we got an awful Call of Duty, and there was like a good kill zone on it. And I think
mm.
we got some of the ports of some of the fighters like Injustice and Mortal
Well,
Kombat.
actually, they were good. They
They
were
were
good,
great.
actually.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
were really great, and they were kind of the last ones, really. And then I think Borderlands 2, they did a port of that, which everybody just crapped all over because it ran so poorly. I think people were a bit harsh. I think it was perfectly playable, but it was just probably a bit too much for it, really. Um,
yeah, yeah,
but yeah, I was like you. I was very excited about it because I love the PSP. So to get something, if the PSP was basically a slightly sort of scaled back PS2, this means that whatever sequel they make for the PSP will be it'll be like having a PS3 in the palm of
mm,
your hand, and it probably was. I think the Uncharted looked amazing.
mm,
You got like I said, fighting games like Mortal Kombat and Injustice. And these games that you wouldn't really get on the 3DS as well. Racing games, you got like World Rally Championship, which looked pretty good. That wasn't the 3DS as well, but it looked great on the Vita. Unfortunately, we got a terrible Ridge Racer. But yeah, after that sort of first year, and apart from things like Metal Gear Solid Collection and God of War
mm,
Collection and Ratchet and Clank Collection, it was good for those sort of they did Vita versions of those collections that would come out,
yeah,
which are great as well. It's very limited. I'm finding these days. I mean, the screen is absolutely beautiful on the first model, the OLED screen.
mm,
Um, but there are a lot of bonehead stuff that it has, like, you know, I don't think having a rear touchpad really did anything for it. I think it could have done with just an R2 and an L2.
I don't think it used it once. And again, it still felt the same. Sony still made the same mistake. It didn't have the L1 and L2 button, or the R1. It just had the one button. So a lot of games, it was like, oh, it's brilliant. You can play, you can stream your games from your PlayStation 4. So I would sit in another room and go, okay, yeah, this is brilliant. I'm going to play my PlayStation 4 on this little screen. And then, but hold on. In fact, you haven't got the clicky buttons on the sticks as well. So you're actually missing the R3 and the L3. Yeah. So you're missing those as well. So then they would put the same buttons onto the pad on the back, which was, of course, a rubbish idea. So, you know, if they knew they were going to have that feature, why then take it out? I mean, it just made sort of no sense, and it made, you know, I was trying to sort of play FIFA, but then you know, you couldn't control the ball properly because you couldn't press the L2 button.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the R1 or the R2 to.
Or like Call of Duty, you know, which uses the trigger buttons massively.
Yeah, so you got to tap the back of the screen. It's just like, hold on, no. You might be able to do some of the story on easy, but you can't play it online where, well, it's
nowhere near as a good of experience as like Wii U is when you're not playing on the screen, and that's absolutely as long as you're within range, it's flawless to the controller. Which is, you know, it's great for, you know, if you're in a flat like mine where the bedroom is basically just not a stone's throw from the living room, you can just pop the game on the screen on the gamepad and just go and play it in the bedroom. You know, no issues at all. We're not missing any buttons. It looks the same. It's great. But with the PS4 to Vita, you're relying on your data, on your connection. But then even if it's great, you're missing those buttons. So it kind of went. A lot of people blame the fact that people don't want to play big ass like PS3 style games on a Vita. I mean, I did. I was like, no, that's really cool. You know, I want to play like a third person adventure game, or, you know, if I'm on a train or anything, you can power through those games when you're on big journeys and everything. A lot of people blame that though, and a lot of people blame the fact that developers aren't going to want to plow, you know, similar amounts of money into a portable version of a game that might not sell nearly as well as the mainline console version. Which is probably a good point. It costs more, obviously, than the 3DS. The games don't appeal to kids, which is a massive, you know, thing that the 3DS had. Kids and adults, and your grannies and your granddads and your brain training. Didn't have anything of that. It was PlayStation fans. And then when we sort of hit 2014, 2015, it was already on life support, which it was basically Japan has kept it going. All the
100%,
which is cool. You know, if you're into visual novels and quirky Japanese dating sims, and as you play a lot of indie games. I mean, I do like indie games, but I can't say I'd play, you know, all of them or even most of them. There's a few that pop up that I'll play.
Going back to Japan, I remember actually when I went to Japan 3 years ago, something like that, and I had in my mind, I'll pick up a couple of Vita games, and I remember going to a typical sort of department store, not a dedicated, you know, computer game shop, and Vita section was huge, and they had a cabinet where you can buy the Vita in pink, in orange, in lime green.
We didn't get any of them.
No, exactly, all these different colors. They had absolutely loads of Vita games. When you were walking around, you saw people on trains and stuff. It was quite common to see someone sort of playing the Vita, and it comes down to the culture in Japan, because people don't have the not that we have big houses here, but the places where they live are certainly a lot smaller, so the portable systems tend to do a lot better, because, you know, the TV will be taken up by the dad watching baseball or something, and the kid will be sitting in his room, and actually a DS, a Vita, PSP, they always did much better than the home consoles in places like Japan, whereas in America, the things like the Vita, I mean, you know, everyone drives there, so you can't go, oh yeah, I use it when I'm on the train, or well, actually, why would I have a Vita? We've got a massive, great big basement that all the kids go in, and you know that there's a PlayStation 4 down there. Why would I need a Vita? And it's
Yeah.
almost you know, but people who do want sort of portable machine, maybe that's your younger kids, so maybe sort of sit in a corner and play a Mario game. And
The market is just more receptive, isn't it, to handheld games? You
that's
know,
what I was getting at. Yeah.
and that was another argument, wasn't it, as well? Like mobile phones were kind of, you
Mm.
know, people just thought, oh, why bother buying a £250 handheld?
Yeah.
I'll just play Angry Birds on my phone that I've already got. You know, and that probably did have an impact. I'm not convinced that was the biggest reason, because
Well,
that would have killed the 3DS as well.
what to me, yeah, a few years ago, everyone was saying, "Oh, mobile gaming,
Yeah,
that's going to take over everything." You know, PlayStation 4. Well, there won't be a PlayStation 5 with mobile gaming, and now, to me, mobile gaming is. I don't want to say it's died. Maybe I'm too old to really understand what people do with it. But it's if you look on trains, you see people play word games, or you know, put in jewels in a line, or you know, is that a type of game? Little sort of pick up and play puzzle
they're
games
the only ones that work with the touchscreen. Yeah,
exactly, and you know, and
look how big the Switch is. You know, that's absolutely phenomenal. You know, it's selling like hotcakes. You know, and
well,
that's
that was the point. I was almost. I was going to make it. It's almost my final point is that
yeah.
why I got really excited about the Switch Lite was it was like, oh wow, it's like a Vita 2. That's what I want.
Basically, yeah.
That's generally what I want. All the games are on there, and you play big budget Nintendo and games like Wolfenstein, Doom's on there, loads of big budget games. But now that Nintendo have done the PlayStation Vita 2, it somehow actually, yeah,
It's almost fulfilled the promise, isn't it, of the
yeah,
Vita?
100% it has, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're not limited by the controls now. You've got a full set of controls,
Yeah.
and it's got that perfect thing of people don't want to plow, developers don't want to plow money into AAA games if they have to make two versions, you know.
Mm.
But they don't, because you just have Nintendo have the one console that happens to be a handheld and a TV console, so they just make the one version, and it's great for people because it could be either. It can be they can just be if they just want to play it off the TV, they can do that. And then there's the argument that people don't want to play those sort of long form, you know, 8, 9, 10 hour games or huge dozens of hours RPG on a handheld. Well, that's fine because they can do that on the TV, but then they can carry it on the times that they want to. They are away from the TV, whether that's when the kids have taken over or the wife has taken over the TV or they're on the commute. It just fits every need ever. Whereas the Vita, maybe not, because you can't just jack it into the TV, so it has to be when you want to sit and play off a small screen, and that's it. You know, so yeah, it's kind of fulfilled the promise, and it proves that. I mean, that's obviously going to get a sequel. There'll be an updated Switch. I think they need to sort of get on that sooner rather than later now. Although they're probably, what was it, 2017 that came out, so you're probably looking at 2021 because. You don't want to. It's going to be interesting, isn't it? You might not just have a completely brand new console that will be cut off from the Switch. It will probably just be a Super Switch, which will have a sort of a jacked up graphics card.
That's what they really need to do, because I think Nintendo going down the route of let's have more teraflops than the PS5. Okay, that's a bad idea. What you want to do is go down the route of actually let's just hype it up a little bit. Let's give it a little bit more power. So actually, when people play things on the 720p screen, it just looks even better, and it's not dropping frames and things like that. So that'll be my advice to it. But it's sort of funny that the Switch is completely obliterated the 3DS. And it's completely, well, obviously the Vita was gone really before the Switch was around, but then it's taken on all the sort of the essence of the Vita to me. And especially when you go onto the online store, it feels like lots of the games on there are just more sort of 2D retro style platformers and things like that. And
you're getting the best of both worlds, aren't you? You're getting those
you
Xbox
really are,
One and PS4 games, as well as the indie platformers and the indie like visual novels and all that stuff. You're getting everything now, as opposed to just the visual novels and the indie platformers, which is awesome for everybody. And I think what they need to do when they do a Switch 2 or Super Switch, whatever it is, they just need to make sure it can keep up with the PS5 and the Xbox Series X. I don't mean like they could do 4K or anything. No. It just needs to make it, be capable of hosting ports of PS4 and Xbox One and Xbox Series X multiplats. Much like the current Switch has. So obviously they'll be dialed down, but most of the game will still be there. The trouble is if it can't do that, then it might struggle a bit.
But then I don't know if people, that's kind of almost like not what they're looking for with, because, if you
so?
like for me, like let's say they bring out, the next Halo or something, and then they announce, we're going to do a Halo. The next Halo is also going to have a Switch version. Well,
yeah.
Hold on. I'm obviously going to buy it on the Xbox because I want the best experience.
Yeah.
But then I think people. I was also going to ask you actually. The next question is: all of these games like this, Wolfenstein, Doom, Witcher, Dark Souls, all games like this are just sort of ports. And they could look good on the small screen, but on the big screen, actually, it doesn't look that great. Now, do you have any idea of sort of sales figures, or how well do these do? Are people going, this is what the Switch is for? It's for playing The Witcher, and for me, actually, the Switch is for games that are actually made for the Switch, and things like Smash Brothers and Mario Kart 8 and
well, it seems to me that I don't know what the sales figures are, but they're obviously. Something like Assassin's Creed is basically what you're talking about. They've obviously done. 3 has come out and Black Flag has come out. They're obviously selling well because they're continuing to make these.
That's
Wolfenstein,
true,
both the Wolfenstein, the New Order, and not the New Order, whatever the sequels were called. The Old Blood and all that, and the new Colossus. That Bethesda are quite happy to make these because they seem to be selling well enough. So I guess it is for those. But the thing is that they're not really. They don't need to really tailor to the console particularly. Only from a technical perspective in terms of dialing the graphics back. It's not like they've got to go. If they want to make Assassin's Creed for the DS, they have to make a completely new game. That works with the two screens, or even going back to earlier than that with the Game Boy. You'd get like a something. If you've got a multi-plat game, there'll be like the Super Nintendo version would be doing one thing, and have to make a completely different game for the Game Boy because you couldn't just port the SNES game really. Whereas they don't really have to do that with the Switch. It hasn't got a weird double screen thing. It hasn't got weird controllers that are different from the mainline consoles. So it's actually fairly simple just to think, well, we could just dump Assassin's Creed 3 on that, we haven't got to do anything with the game, really. We've just got to dial some of the settings back. They're used to programming probably, ARM processors and, the sort of NVIDIA graphics cards. All that stuff is is inside the Switch. So they haven't really got to, and I think there's also a lot more kind of porting specialists, isn't there, out there that deal like like the ones that did like Alien Isolation on the Switch is actually like better than like the PS4 version.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Have you bought that, Trev?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, and it's really good. It looks identical.
So hold on, let's just have a recap. Alien Isolation. How many different systems do you own it on?
Basically, everyone it's ever come out on.
So you've got it on
I've got it on PS4. I haven't got it on PS4.
Okay, but you got it on the Xbox One as well.
Yeah.
Right.
That was the first system I got it on, funny enough.
And how many times have you completed it?
4, I think.
Okay, well, that's pretty good. That's pretty
Four
good.
times, yeah. Apparently, only like something like 20% of people that have the game completed it. So yeah, I'm part of an exclusive club.
Boy,
Have you played it? You never played. You've never played.
Do you know what?
Have you?
It'll make me jump. All the scary bits.
It does, yeah. It made me jump load. Like it's the only game that's ever done that.
Yeah.
Probably okay. Maybe like Resident Evil 2 when like the dog jumps through the window.
Yeah.
First time, and when you're walking through the police station, that made me jump. But that was the only real time.
Oh.
Although what's it called? The VR game, Until Dawn: Rush of Blood. That is pretty damn scary.
Have you? So you've got a what's it called? Haven't you? A VR thing.
PSVR, yeah, I have. Yeah.
Because obviously I mentioned before, my girlfriend works at PlayStation.
You always have to shoehorn that in.
I know, just like the
as I mentioned before.
So she's and anyway. So they had so for Christmas we went away and whatever. So they have little sales going on there where they have lots of promo games that you go there and you have to get a little donation and get them. And for Christmas she got me a little pile of 5 PlayStation 4 games. And I was like, oh wow, that's good. So she gave some money to charity and got these games. And then I was sort of looking at them and going, oh, Eve Valkyrie. Oh, what's that like? And it's like a game for VR. And the next one was Robinson the Journey. Oh, well, that's a VR game, that is. And I haven't got a VR. Battlezone. Have you heard of that one?
Yeah, another VR game. Yeah,
another VR game. Yeah,
basically these are VR games.
Yeah. So then, also, Here They Lie.
I've heard of that one.
No. Anyway,
I'm guessing. I'm guessing. This is a stab in the dark right now, right? VR game.
It's a VR game.
Wow.
But I did get one, Until Dawn, which is not a VR game.
There's 2 of them, isn't there? There's the regular one, that you're probably talking about now, and then there's a Rush of Blood, which is a VR game. They're quite different, though, from each other. Yeah,
this does say Until Dawn, just the normal one. So
Rush of Blood is really good. It's basically like the closest thing is it's a light gun game. So you got the 2 like PlayStation dildos. You have to play with it. But it's really scary. I mean, I watched like Angry Joe. I think I've talked about this before in an earlier episode. But I remember watching like Angry Joe's review of it, and he was like jumping at stuff and screaming. So I was like, it looks so lame. No one's scared of that. He's just exaggerating. But then I played it, and it really is creepy as balls. You're basically on like a ghost train roller coaster thing with all kinds of shit flying at you, like corpses and dead pigs and stuff, with loads of jump scares. But because you're completely immersed in it, it feels really real. It's really good. And there's a demo of it if anybody's got VR and they want to try it. Give it a go. I want to try Ace Combat Skies Unknown. Because again, things where you're in a cockpit of something, so you're basically the experience is the same as if you were doing it for real, because you're not walking around or anything. Like Gran Turismo is a really good VR game as well, but I got really bad motion sickness, so I couldn't play it at length. But that is, you look down, you see your legs in the car, you look around. You don't obviously, you don't have to. You can't like sort of hit the button to look to get a quick view behind your car. You like turn your head to look behind you. To see someone, and you look, to see what's going on around you. You drive like you would drive in real life, and it's really immersive. And there's like Wipeout as well. I couldn't really play that, and it's way too floaty. It makes you really sick. So that was difficult, which is a shame because I really like Wipeout games. And like Astrobot is kind of like a Mario 64 if it was like VR. So it's more like Super Mario 3D. Everyone says, "Oh, it's a completely new experience. It's nothing like this game." I was like, "I played this. This is just Super Mario 3D World, but you've got VR. You're wearing a VR headset while you're playing it." It's great. Get it. Get VR. It's good.
No, I might do it at some point. But I wanted to let everyone know I did. Follow us on Console Shock UK on Twitter. So we seem to be getting some really good arguments online at the moment. So we want to keep that up as well.
We love a good argument.
Yeah, so I did a tweet today asking what people wanted to talk about, and no one answered. But
there we go. Yeah,
I did a survey, a quick poll Okay, so the
I think
official
this is like Family Fortunes or something, a survey.
It is. The survey said.
You are
So
Les
for
Dennis.
Console Shock listeners who follow
Yeah.
us on Twitter, 80% of you, so 4 of you, voted as the PS Vita to be the best, and only 1 of you, or 20% of you, voted for the 3DS.
We have lots of fans, well, 4, of people that like walking simulators and Japanese visual novels.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what,
Dating
guys,
sims.
if you're listening, get a PC Engine. It is
Yeah.
full of that stuff. You'll love it. Although they're all literally in Japanese completely with no translation. Well, there might be some fan translations, but yeah, you'll bloody love that. There's visual novels coming out. I think the last ever PC Engine game was literally a visual novel.
I'm not interested in visual novels, really.
Yeah, there's a weird zombie game came out for the PC Engine in 1999. And that was the last ever game for the PC Engine. It was a weird zombie visual novel. Can't get more Japanese than that, right?
No,
A zombie visual novel. Yeah, interesting fact for you there. Very expensive though. It's about 300, 400 quid on eBay if you want that game.
Yeah, I'll leave it. I'll leave it. I'll save it for someone else. I'll save it for someone else to buy.
Yeah, I might want to miss that one. Yeah. Bit niche. You know, I think I can safely say I will not be purchasing that one. So yeah. I think we've covered everything there is possibly to talk about. Well, actually, they're both still alive, the 3DS and the Vita. I think they're kind of very much on life support, although the Vita
I think the 3DS is still, still going.
I think it's getting eShop sort of gubbins coming out for us still, isn't it?
Yeah, you might get the odd game, but I think the 3DS is. I mean that'll with all the Pokemon games and stuff like that.
It'll be like PS2. It'll be in like CX in the next 50 years,
Yeah.
And Vita, although that's difficult to get games for at the moment, physical ones, because like I said, they all kind of dropped off in about 2014, 15, I think. So, going to your CEXs, I can imagine when you were still at running a Play Nation, did you have many Vita games in at any point?
We were quite good actually. We got lots of them in as in like brand new ones, because we had a little sort of niche few customers that came in and
Malcolm,
get this RPG, I'll get that one, and they were sort of generally quite excited about them. No, it wasn't Malcolm. No, no.
Hi, Malcolm.
Hey, Malcolm.
I love you, dude. Yeah, if you're a big Atlas fan, they make all those visual novels of weird sort of games, don't they? Really alienating everybody that likes those games now, aren't we? If we're not talking about football games, which is probably like kryptonite to your average like Atlas fan, we're talking about how we don't like visual novels. So yeah, like Snatcher's kind of a visual novel, kind of, I guess.
I think so. Yeah,
I've
never really played a visual novel.
No, I've played an actual novel. You don't play it; you hold it and read it. But yeah, it's all right. Not a big fan. Not a big fan. Graphic novels are good, where they sort of draw the text as a picture. It's quite an interesting take on the whole book thing. You should try it.
I might do.
Yeah. Anyway, Stu, I've got a question for you, sir.
Don't ask me about Philip Schofield. I don't want your opinion on. I'm not going to give you my opinion on Philip Schofield.
Surprisingly, it's not about Philip Schofield.
Okay.
I'm wondering,
should
I be someone interested in subscribing to our sort of stuff?
Yes.
Where wouldst thou? Where how do you find us?
I'm going to mention a few different things this time. Can people please leave us a review on iTunes? Because I've had to do a review of my own podcast.
Don't stop groveling for that kind of stuff.
So leave us a review on iTunes. It makes a huge difference. It gets us to the top of the, top of the tables and stuff, top of the charts. So if you can leave us a review and, leave us a 4-star review. It doesn't have to be a 5-star review. If you listen to this episode, you heard this, leave us a 4-star review.
Please.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Okay. Find us on Twitter. I'm enjoying Twitter at the moment. and we're Console Shock UK. So check us out on there. Give us a follow, and
all the usual Twitter shizzle.
Yeah, and then we can discuss blast processing.
And where can you get the podcast?
The podcast is on YouTube, Console Shock. It's on iTunes. It's on Stitcher, and loads of other little things now. If you search Console Shock podcast, it just brings up about sort of 4 or 5 different websites where you can sort of download it from. So including Google, things like that. So it's a little bit odd, but we seem to be in more places than I thought we were.
We're getting out there, aren't we? Slowly but surely. So thank you for the rundown of the socials. That's like kind of a book, doesn't it? Rundown of the socials. And we've got a few other episodes lined up in quick succession. Actually, we're going to be busy this week recording them. So watch out for those. We've got Clive Menbonker. We haven't at all. No one knows of that. Who knows that? I barely know who that is. Not a Charlton fan.
Well, we know someone who knows who Clive Mendonca is.
Yeah, there's a bit of banter going on our Twitter about that. So all those Atlas fans will be loving that. So yeah, we've got a lot lined up. You're going to stay tuned. Stay tuned to our socials and all that shizzle, and you'll see more episodes popping up soon. But thank you for listening, and we will see you in the next one.